Muy buenos días a todas las personas que están conectadas en este momento. Mi nombre es Camila Flores, hago parte del equipo de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales y hoy estaremos realizando un webinar sobre London School of Economics, LSE. Nos acompaña Loris, quien estará realizando la presentación. Y antes de comenzar, quería recordarles que con esta universidad tenemos un convenio que otorga una beca del 100% para un miembro del semillero de talentos y para el resto de beneficiarios se otorga un 20% de descuento. Aquí está Loris, quien estará realizando la presentación. Loris, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You can now start the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is Loris. I'm Lsc Student Recruitment and Study Abroad Officer, and I will be talking for around 30 minutes. I will cover a bit of information about LSE, so who we are, what we teach and how we teach. And then I'm also going to talk about what makes LSE special and what we're looking for in applications. So if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, and there's going to be a chance for you to ask your questions at the end. Right, so without further ado, we can get started. Right, so the first part of this presentation, studying at LSE, and I always start with something very basic. So what is LSE? We are the London School of Economics and Political Science. We're a specialist university teaching only social sciences. And that's not just politics and economics, of course. We have 25 academic departments that teach subjects that range from anthropology and accounting through to international relations, history, geography, psychology, through to statistics and sociology. And actually a number of academic disciplines were pioneered at the school, including international relations. So it's a very influential place to study these subjects. Just to give you a bit about our history here, so LSE was founded in 1895 by an organization called the Fabian Society. They are the UK's longest existing think tank, and they created LSE to study the causes of inequality and poverty, and also issues of governance. They were created to train civil servants and prepare to kind of engage with government and engage with business. This is our motto, which you can see here in Latin. In English, that means understanding the causes of things. And this very much reflects on how we teach and how we do research to this day. So whatever you choose to study at LSE, you will be looking at real problems in the world, and you will be trying to find solutions to those problems with the aim of creating a better society. If you come to study with us, so you're going to be looking at a number of big issues in the world. So things like new technologies and their effects on democracy, on the market, on the economy. Things like the financial crisis, war, conflict, humanitarianism, urbanization and development, and also things like Brexit, political identity, elections, competition within politics. And we bring together specialists from different academic departments to look at these big issues together. So for example, if we're talking about the financial crisis, LSE brings together political scientists together with economists and social psychologists and anthropologists to do research and understand what's happening. Couple of basic facts about LSE. So we have approximately 11,000 students in total. 6,000 of our students are postgraduate students, and actually 80%, so 80% of our postgraduate students come from outside of the UK. So LSE is a very global, a very international university. We have over 140 master's programs and PhD programs across 25 academic departments. So I'm not going to cover all of them, but I will give you a taster through the presentation. Now, the fact that we're very international does not just mean that we have lots of international students. We also have staff members and academics coming from outside the UK, approximately 40% of our staff. If you're thinking about students from Colombia, we had 59 students in the past academic year. Coming from Colombia, we have a very active Colombian society on campus, and also an alumni association in Colombia. So when you go back to Colombia after your studies, you will continue to be part of a wider LSE family, and they do lots of networking and provide you with lots of opportunities. We also have regional research centers. So for example, you may be studying international relations, but you're really interested in Latin America or Europe or Asia. You will find specialists in those regions of the world. And that's very important, of course, when it comes to your master's or your PhD dissertation. We have over 100 languages spoken on campus. So yes, you can make friends with other students from Colombia, but you can also avoid other Colombians and meet students from anywhere in the world. Really, it's a very, very international place to be. So these are the academic departments that we have at LSE. So this gives you an overview of the subject areas that we cover. And again, there's a wide range of subjects. And all of these departments, apart from the Language Center, offer master's and PhD programs. And most departments offer more than one program. And I'm going to show you a couple of programs in a second. Before we do that, these are the different types of study at LSE. So we have a diploma in accounting and finance, and then the vast majority of our postgraduate degrees are master's programs. So Masters of Science. We also have a Master of Laws, the LLM program, a Master's in Public Administration, MPA, and a Master's of Public Policy. At the research level, we have two types of PhD programs, so MRes PhDs and MPhil PhDs, and then we have a number of executive master's programs as well, which take place part-time and require work experience. But the majority of master's programs are standard MSc programs. We have a number of double and joint master's programs, which I'm going to cover later on. And if you're undertaking a PhD program anywhere else in the world and you would like to come to LSE for a brief period, we have a visiting research student scheme as well. Now, starting with master's programs. So as I mentioned, the most common type of degree at the postgraduate taught level are master's programs, MSc programs, and our LLM. Full-time, these programs take 1 year to complete, so September to September in most cases. A number of master's programs are shorter. So for example, they may be 9 months or 10 months long. So for example, our Master's in Economics is shorter than 1 year. Some programs, generally the ones that are shorter, require you to do a pre-sessional course before the start of your master, so generally in August. As part of your degree, you will have a number of year-long and half-year courses, most of which will have an essay or an exam. And basically your grade will depend sometimes exclusively on the exam or on the essay or on a mixture of both. So you have a number of choices when it comes to courses. Some courses may be compulsory, but in most cases you have a number of options to kind of tailor the degree to your interests. By the end of your master's program, in most cases you need to submit a 10,000-word dissertation, and you will have a supervisor who will support you and help you to write it, to conduct your research. In terms of the teaching that takes place at LSE, we have a mixture of lectures, classes, and seminars. So you should expect to have between 12 and 20 hours of teaching per week. And that's going to be a mixture of different types of classes. So you may have a big lecture with 60, with 70, 80 students. And then you're going to have small classes with 8, 10, 12 students, depending on your on the modules that you choose. Regardless of how many contact hours, you need to spend at least 20 hours a week doing independent studies. So it's going to be a lot of work for you to do. You will need to do a lot of reading. You have to prepare for essays, for presentations, group projects. So you will be constantly busy during the term. Now, just to show you a couple of examples here from different departments, just to show you the range of programs that we have on offer, looking at the government department, our political science department. So we have master's degrees that are very specialist. They can be something like conflict studies, global politics, political science and political economy, regulation, etc. The same for other departments. So for example, you can do a master's in economics and philosophy, or philosophy of science, philosophy of social science. So the very first step for you to kind of start looking at LSE is to look at the list of programs. If you follow this link on the QR code here, it takes you to a brochure with all of our programs, and you need to narrow it down to 2 programs. You can apply for 2 programs at the same time. So some master's degrees can be quite general. So for example, a master's in international relations, but you can also apply for a very specific, a very specialized degree like international political economy. So spend some time on the website to understand what's on offer. Oops. So these are some of the double and joint programs that we offer. So double degrees, essentially you spend 1 year at LSE and 1 year at one of our partners around the world. And at the end of the double degree, you graduate with 2 master's degrees. And then joint masters are essentially programs that are offered at the same time with another university, and you graduate after 1 year with a degree from both universities. At the research level, our PhD programs can be anywhere between 3 to 6 years long. Now, the difference between MPhil PhD programs and MRes PhD programs is essentially that the MRes PhD programs, essentially, the first year is more similar to a master's degree. So you will have a number of taught courses and possibly also a long essay or a dissertation. For the MPhil PhD, you still have some taught courses, but generally you don't have a dissertation. But the programs, in both cases, you will have some taught courses, and then you proceed with writing your thesis, which will be between 80 to 100,000 words in most cases. All of our departments offer PhD programs. And again, questions at this level can be quite specialized. So if you have any questions about how to proceed with PhD programs, we can talk about it later on. You will have a lead supervisor, and you need to spend at least 40 hours a week on your project. In addition to support within your academic department, LSE has a dedicated PhD academy, and they offer you a lot of support in terms of methodology training, doing your research, but also on developing professionally, because not everybody who does a PhD wants to become an academic. So we help you to be successful, whatever career you choose to pursue in the future. Now, the second part of this presentation, so why study at LSE? What makes LSE special? I would say that the very first thing is academic excellence. So we are the world's leading dedicated social science institution. We attract some of the world's best students and academics to study the social sciences. So you will be in very good company from week 1. And the main thing that we're looking for in our students is a very strong, a very well-developed academic interest in your subject. So that kind of is the defining characteristic of LSE students. We have a very strong global reputation, and that, of course, means a number of things for our students. So employers and universities around the world recognize and value an LSE education. So whatever you choose to do in the future, having the LSE on your CV can help you to get to where you want to be. In terms of if you're thinking about your career, if we look at the UK, LSE graduates have some of the top employment rates and high starting salaries among UK universities. To this date, we have had 18 Nobel Prize winners coming from the school who previously staff or students. You can probably recognize the man in the center at the bottom there. So the former president of Colombia, Juan Santos. So these people come back to give lectures. The former president of Colombia actually studied in the Department of Economics in 1975. And he came to our campus twice, once last year and I think in 2011. So it's a chance for our students to go along to these lectures, ask questions, meet with these people, and also kind of criticize and learn from them directly. At the same time, LSE academics publish hundreds of books and articles across the social sciences. So you're not just coming to LSE to read old textbooks, you will be interacting with the leading authors in your discipline. A very important thing from the very beginning, from 1895, LSE has tried to be very engaged with what's happening in the world. We don't want to be in an academic bubble, so you can often see LSE academics on the news commenting on what's happening in the world. And many of our academics actually act as expert advisors to companies, to NGOs, to governments. And again, you're learning from these people directly who have real world experience from what's happening across the different sectors. A very important, a very exciting LSE tradition is our public lecture series. So every night on campus during term time, we have people like presidents, prime ministers, opposition leaders, company leaders, journalists, etc., coming from around the world to give lectures. So you can see here, for example, Nancy Pelosi from the US. We have people like Mario Monti, Ursula von der Leyen, the Dalai Lama, Bill Gates. So these kind of people coming to give lectures, and it's another chance for students to go along, criticize, have debates, and again, meet with world leaders across the discipline. At the moment, of course, because of coronavirus, all of this is taking place online, but hopefully things will resume very soon. But again, it's a bit difficult to predict. Actually, all of our public lectures are recorded, so you can access them on the website as well. Now, the LSE campus is very compact. We're at the very heart of London, right between the seat of government, so Westminster, and the financial centre of the City of London, next to Covent Garden. And all of our teaching and learning takes place in this area that you see on the map. In terms of resources, lots of things on offer for students. So starting from the Lse Library at the top there, the Lse Library is actually called the British Library of Political and Economic Science. It's an amazing resource. It's 5 floors with over 4 million printed items. And it's also home to a center called Lse Life. And Lse Life gives you support on writing essays, doing your research, preparing for presentations, helping you manage your time, prepare for classes. There's a lot of additional support that you can find within the library at Lse. We have a language center where you can study one of 10 languages on the side. So in addition to your studies in the evening, we have an amazing students union with over 200 clubs and societies doing things that range from sports to languages, cultures, cooking, traveling, anything you can think of. And of course, we have lots of restaurants on campus. We have a gym. We have a career service that's very, very active. And I'm going to talk about LSE careers later on. And a medical center and dentist on campus as well. So there's a lot of support for our students, all in the same area. This is just a couple of pictures from the LSE Library. At the bottom left there, you can see a picture from LSE Life. And I mentioned that LSE Life gives you support on all sorts of different things. You can see some example workshops from last year. And these take place every day. You can sign up for as many as you like, and you can also do one-to-one appointments with them. So if you're struggling with anything, if you want to ask for advice, you can always go to LSE Life. The Lsc Students Union, so they represent students. It's a committee that's democratically elected by students, and they run student activities. Again, I mentioned we have over 200 clubs and societies, and I've got a couple of random examples here, things like the LSE Dance Club. We have a cocktail society, an investment society, baking, anime and manga. Also subject-based societies. So for example, we have the Law Society. You don't need to be studying law to join it. As long as you're interested in law or international development, for example, you can join the relevant student societies and you can meet students who share your interests. They have additional events taking place all the time. So again, lots and lots of things to get involved in. In terms of our location in London, so people normally think of London as a very busy kind of tourist city. That's true. But we also like to see London as a global academic capital. So the city itself is home to around 40 different universities and institutes with over 300 or 400,000 students last year, I believe. So there's lots of things happening for students all the time. So run by students very often, so they can be cheap or very even free sometimes to attend. And London is also your wider campus. So yes, we have amazing resources on LSE's campus, but also London has places like the British Library, which has every single book that has ever been published in English, specialist institutes, libraries, other universities, and there's so many things you can kind of use during your studies to make the most of your time in the city. And if you're thinking about kind of having fun, things to explore in London, so many things in terms of music, food, festivals, films, going out, so many things to explore. London is an expensive city for sure, but as a student, you can actually live within a kind of a reasonable budget. And I'm going to talk about budgeting later on as well. Another thing that's quite important about London, employers. So London is the hub of all major activity in the UK. So whether you're thinking about politics or finance or media, most major employers, international organizations, etc., have their headquarters in London. We have very close links with employers. We are a top university in the city, so employers very often come to our campus to meet with our students. And we offer you one-to-one advice to write your CV, apply for jobs, attend interviews. We prepare you for tests. So there's a lot of support for you to kind of think about your future career, not just in the UK, but around the world. Actually, after you graduate, you continue to have access to LSE careers for up to 5 years as well. In terms of accommodation, so we have a number of postgraduate halls, so just for postgraduate students. We do not guarantee accommodation, however. So you can apply for LSE accommodation. It's all very close to campus, but unfortunately, Many masters and PhD students have to go for accommodation in the private sector. I mean, I say unfortunately, but there's a lot of support for you to do that. We have a lot of advice. We have trusted landlords. We can introduce you to other students who are looking for flats. So we are aware that moving to London can be a very big step. It can be quite scary, and we try to make it as easy as possible. So this is just a map again to show you. So LSE is right in the center there next to Covent Garden. And the flags that you see around us are the LSE halls of residence, so the accommodation options for our students. And the blue flags are intercollegiate accommodation options, so basically student halls which we share with other University of London institutions like UCL, King's College, and so on. On the website, you can find a lot of information. You can do virtual tours. So again, after you apply, if you're made an offer, there's going to be a lot of information for you on the website to make your decision. These are some of the major employers of LSE graduates. So you can see kind of a big variety here. So we have the United Nations, we have the government and the civil service, not just in the UK, but around the world. Big banks and investment firms, consultancies, media companies, and of course, leading universities around the world. On our website, we actually give you statistics for most of our programs, so you can see exactly what the graduates of your chosen program went on to do. And the list on the left, again, it gives you some of the services provided by LSE Careers. And I mentioned earlier, we have employers coming to campus, we have networking events, we have one-to-one appointments for you to kind of build your CV, think about your career, and also develop professionally as well. So again, I think the biggest problem for most students is to actually manage to do everything that they're interested in during their time at LSE. One of the last things here, so costs and financial support. Tuition fees at the graduate level vary by program, so it can be anywhere between £22,000 approximately up to £36,000. You can find the tuition fees for each program on the website. In terms of living expenses, so we estimate that students need between £1,100 to £1,300 per month, and that's to cover both accommodation and living expenses, of course, depending on your lifestyle. So if you want to go for a studio next to campus and you want to go out every week, that can be much more expensive, but actually students manage within that budget. Of course, as a student, you have access to lots of different student discounts. So for example, you can get an Oyster card, and that gives you 30% off transport in London. We have a student card, which gives you access to discounts in shops and restaurants. So again, lots of different ways for you to manage within the budget. And one important thing here is that students, international students, can actually work part-time during term time and full-time during the holidays as well. So if you want to look for work, again, LSE Careers can help you. In terms of funding, so there's a lot of financial support available for our students. Every year we give around £13 million in financial support. And there's a number of different options here, starting from departmental and country-based awards. So some departments have their own scholarships. The main source of funding for postgraduate students from Colombia, of course, is called Futuro. And I believe Camila mentioned it in the beginning. So LSE essentially covers 20% of your tuition fees, and then Call Futuro covers up to $50,000. If you have more questions about that, we can discuss it in the Q&A at the end. Also, we have the LSE Graduate Support Scheme. So based on financial need, we can award students anywhere between £5,000 and £15,000. And for PhD students, the most important source of funding are LSE Studentships, and these cover your entire tuition fees and also a monthly stipend. Again, lots of different options here. You can find a lot of information on these on the website. And if you have questions after you apply, so it's not something you need to apply for in advance. So for LSE scholarships, you apply for these after you apply for your place. If you have questions about LSE scholarships, I can answer them later on. Now, the last part of this presentation, applying to LSE. So what are we looking for? Starting from the process itself. So when you apply to LSE, applications open in October each year for entry in the following September. For master's programs, we have rolling admissions, and that means that applications open in October and programs accept applications up until they fill up their spaces. So programs start closing generally after February, March, but we generally advise applicants to submit their application as soon as they can. It doesn't have to be in October. You can apply in December, in January, that's still fine. The earlier you apply, the more chances you have of getting a place. PhD programs may have deadlines, and these generally coincide with funding deadlines. So you need to apply for our PhD programs before they close. On your application, you can apply for 2 programs at the same time, and essentially we look at your first choice first. If you're unsuccessful, we look at your second choice automatically. In terms of entry requirements, so you can see on the top right there, so for Colombian students, if you're applying for a master's program, we will be looking for so your licenciado or título profesional with a 4 out of 5. Some programs like economics ask for a 4.6 out of 5, but most programs ask for a 4. You don't need to complete your degree before you apply. You can apply during your last year, and we can make you a conditional offer. So that will say basically you have an offer at LSE as long as you complete your licenciado with a 4 out of 5, for example. If you want to apply for law, you need to have a law degree. So you can see the abogado there, or doctor en derecho, with a 4.2 out of 5. And if you want to apply for a master's, for a PhD program, you need to have a master's degree with a 4 out of 5. Some programs require you to have a certain academic background. So for example, if you want to apply for law, you need to have studied law before. If you want to apply for our 1-year master's in economics, you need to have studied economics before. Check individual programs on the website. I would say that the vast majority of our programs accept students from any kind of relevant social science background. Some programs, so in the Department of Economics, Finance, Management, Mathematics and Accounting, require you to submit Gmat or GRE scores. You need to check the requirements before you apply because, for example, our economics programs only accept the GRE test. They don't accept the Gmat, but then accounting wants you to take the Gmat. So make sure you know what the requirements of your program are. We don't have minimum requirements for the Gmat or the GRE, so there's no minimum score. These are just some kind of good scores, so 650 and above for the Gmat, etc. It's not the end of the world if you don't get that. We just use your Gmat or GRE scores to compare you with other very similar applicants. It's just something extra that we use to assess you. It's not the end of the world. In terms of what you need to provide as part of your application, so we need to see your transcript with your grades so far, so everything that you have completed by the point that you apply, so the previous academic years. You need to provide the contact details of 2 academic referees, and they will provide your reference. Then you write a statement of academic purpose. It's an extremely important document because we don't have interviews for master's programs. We do have interviews for PhD programs, but for master's programs, there are no interviews. Then you submit your CV as well, and where necessary, your Gmat or GRE score. If you're applying for a PhD, you also need to provide, in most cases, a research proposal and also a sample of your work, so an essay that you wrote in English. In terms of our English language requirements, you don't need to submit an English test when you apply. If we make you an offer, you can then submit your English test at that stage. In terms of the actual English language requirements, you can see these on our website. So we accept a number of different tests. Just one thing to mention is that for many of these tests, you need to make sure that they're not more than 2 years old by the start of your program. But again, you don't need to provide your IELTS, for example, if you want to apply. So for example, if in November you haven't taken an English test, you can still apply. We're not looking for your English test as part of your application. If we make you an offer, there will be an English language condition there. Now, the statement of academic purpose is extremely important because most of the students who apply to LSE, and we receive many, many applications, they meet or exceed our entry requirements. So the only way for us to kind of differentiate is to kind of, to a large extent, is to look at your statement of academic purpose. And this is a very academic document. We're looking for you to tell us about your academic interest in your program. We want to see that you have a very well-developed academic interest. You know exactly why you want to pursue your program. We want to see what you've done before in your studies, anything that you read outside of your studies. You can talk about specific courses within your master's program that you find interesting and why. So it's a very academic document. It's very different from universities in the US, in America, because they normally want you to kind of tell them the story of your life, kind of impress them with your extracurriculars. We are looking for a very focused essay that really tells us why you want to pursue your program. If you have any relevant experience, if you want to talk about some achievements, you can, but try not to give us a list of what you've done. Because if you just give us a list, I've done these 10 things, I've read these 10 books, it doesn't say anything about you. So the selector will not meet you, so make sure that everything that you mention in the statement of academic purpose provides some details. Some students think that, for example, if they say something like, I volunteered in the local government for 6 months, that's going to impress selectors. Well, if you don't tell them what you were doing and how that made you more motivated to apply, it's not necessarily going to strengthen your application. If you apply for 2 programs, then you need to submit 2 separate statements of academic purpose. And just one last thing here, some programs like statistics, they require you to write a very short statement, but all of this is on our website. Very last thing, so the Lsc Summer School, for those of you who are thinking about joining us for a very brief period, we have a number of summer school courses, not this year because of coronavirus, we've had to cancel everything, but for next summer, you can apply starting from November. These are very specialized courses, so different academic departments offer very specialized courses, and you can come to Lsc for 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 9 weeks, depending on how many courses you want to do. And all of this is on the website again. Right, so I think I've given you a lot of information. Just a couple of important links. You can access our graduate study pages using the first link. There's a lot of information about our programs. So we give you recommended reading lists. We give you the list of all the courses within a master's program. So that can inform you when you write your statement of academic purpose. At the moment, we have a virtual undergraduate open day, but it's still, you can still find useful things for graduate students as well. And we're planning to launch a postgraduate open day online in the autumn. We have student blogs and videos as well. And as I mentioned, all of our public events are recorded and made available on the website as well. So you will have a chance to ask questions now, but if you have more questions later on, you can chat with us live every day. So you can use the link in the QR code there. And we also have an online form where you can submit your questions and me or one of my colleagues will respond. So I think with that, we can start the Q&A. I believe that Camilla,
Doris, thank you so much for the presentation. We will now be asking the questions that the people are sending us in the chat. The first question is from Lina Maria, and she's asking, hi, could I do a transition from a master's degree to a PhD program with a scholarship like assistantship? Thank you.
The scholarship as, sorry?
Like assistantship.
Okay, right, yes. So basically, if you get an Lsc studentship for a PhD program, in many cases, you will be required to teach as part of your scholarship. In some cases, you can get the scholarship, but your department may not ask you to teach. So yes, if you apply for a PhD program, we automatically consider you for an Lsc studentship. And that's purely based on academic merit, not financial needs, purely academic merit and research potential. So you just apply for your PhD program, and then we consider you for your scholarship as well. Oh, I think you're muted, Camila. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Juan Camilo asks, what's the acceptance rate of the graduate programs?
That really varies by program. So on the website, on individual program pages, you can find the number of applications and acceptances. It really varies. So it can be 1 in 8, it can be 1 in 20 for some programs. So it really depends on the program. And yes, some programs are less competitive than others, but I would say don't just go for a less competitive program because you think it's less competitive, because if your statement of academic purpose is not convincing for that program, there's going to be other people who have convincing statements. So make sure you go for what you're interested in, I would say.
Okay, Valentina is asking, is the Gmat mandatory for masters in business and finance?
So yes, so for most of our degrees in the Department of Management, you need to provide a Gmat or a GRE, and also for finance as well. Yes, you need to take a test.
Great, Mariana.
Just one thing there. So if you are required to take the Gmat or the GRE, you need to submit your scores as part of your application. So you're not going to be considered unless we have your scores. But that's not the case for English tests. Yeah.
Okay. Mariana Jaramillo is asking, is it possible to get accepted to the LLM with a 7.0 on the IELTS?
With a 7.0 on the IELTS. So again, we're not going to look at your IELTS when we consider you for the LLM. So we will look at your transcripts, your statement of purpose, your references. So the IELTS requirement for law is slightly higher. So if your current IELTS scores don't meet that, it's not a problem. You can just retake the test if necessary. So it will be a condition on your offer.
Okay. Arturo wants to know if he had a previous master at LSE and he would like to take another one. Is there any discount in the tuition fees?
Yes, so if you're an LSE alumnus, you can get 10% of future study. Yeah.
Maria is asking, how are the bachelor's and master's programs starting on October? Are they hybrid or online?
So for this academic year, we have introduced flexible and kind of mixed arrangements. So big lectures will be taking place remotely, so online, but then in person, so small classes and seminars will be taking place on campus where possible. And then in terms of careers events, public lectures, a lot of that will be taking place online, but there will be, so we expect students to join us in September in London or as soon as they can in the autumn, basically.
Maria wants to know how many hours can a bachelor student work per week?
Bachelor students. So students who are studying at LSE full-time, essentially, we advise, so your student visa allows you to work up to 20 hours a week during term time. We advise you not to work more than 10 to 12 hours a week because you will have a lot of work. But it's not impossible to find flexible kind of part-time work in London. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to do that.
Mariana wants to know if it's possible to get references from professors that do not speak English with an official translation.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yes, everything has to be officially translated, but that's not a problem. As long as we have the reference, that's fine. Just make sure it's a professor who knows you well. If they don't speak English very well, that's fine. Just get it official. Maybe they have to get it translated, or you can translate, so you can request a translation on their behalf. We consider you, and then if we make you an offer, you will get instructions on how to verify that reference. So yeah.
For the people that are asking if the webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, yes, it will. We will be uploading it in a few days. The next question is from Erika, and she wants to know if the GMAT score affects the acceptance decision.
Yes, I mean, so for programs that require a GMAT or a GRE, yes, it's part of the kind of the things that we're looking at to assess you, but there's no kind of specific weight placed on the GMAT as opposed to, let's say, your marks or your references. Selectors look at everything together, so they look at the whole picture and they make their decision based on everything. So it's not to say that the GMAT is more important or less important than something else. It's part of the whole picture. Yeah. So the higher you score, the more chances you have, but it's not the most important thing in the world.
Okay. Maria Alejandra wants to know if there's any criteria to be considered when applying to a part-time master.
Any criteria? So the criteria are exactly the same. Just bear in mind that for part-time masters, you may not be able to get a visa to study part-time. So I believe the current regulations require you to be studying full-time. So you may need to check that. But we will assess you nevertheless. If you want to apply for a part-time master's, yes, but just bear in mind that the visa process is very separate to this.
Okay. Jorge wants to know if it's possible to get the references from employers as well as former teachers.
Okay, so basically, if you are still studying at university or if you graduated less than 2 years ago, we require you to have 2 academic references. If you have a very important professional reference, you can upload it as a 3rd reference to your application. So you don't need to kind of put the details of the referee, you just upload the letter yourself. If you graduated more than 2 years ago, you can upload 1 professional and 1 academic reference. And if you graduated more than 4 years ago, then you can provide 2 professional references. But always an academic reference can be quite useful because we are assessing you based on your academic merit.
Okay. They're asking if you could explain a little bit more about the minimum entry requirements to apply for an LLM when you mentioned the 4.2 over 5.
Yeah, so let me just go back to the slide here. There we go. It depends on what your question really is here. So that should be your expected grade if you're still studying. Now, it's not a red line, so some students ask, what if I have a 4 or a 4.1? Can I still apply? Yes, you can still apply, but you're always competing with students who meet or exceed the minimum requirements. So basically, if your grade is less than that, selectors need to have very, very strong reasons in order to give you an offer. So they have to explain themselves to the head of department. They have to say, this student did not meet the minimum requirements, but for reasons A, B, and C, I think we should give them an offer. So that it kind of makes it easier for them if you meet the minimum requirements. And you're always competing with many other people, especially for the LLM. We get approximately 15 to 20 applications per place. It's a very competitive program.
Thank you. Daniel is asking, what is the most relevant aspect to be accepted to a PhD publication? If I think the question is if it's more relevant scientific journals or work experience.
In order to be accepted on a PhD program, I suppose. Yes. So you don't need to have publications or work experience. What you need to have, so for most PhD programs, is a very strong research proposal. So you need to write a detailed proposal that shows that you know the literature in your area, so you can do a proper literature review. You have a good research question, and you also talk about research methods. On the website, we offer you support on how to write the research proposals. If you just Google LSC supporting documents, there's a page on our website that gives you advice on the research proposal, on the statement of academic purpose. So that's the most important thing for most programs. Some PhD programs, like our PhD in economics, they don't require a research proposal. They have a research statement. So you need to answer specific questions that they offer on the website. But overall, academic potential, research potential, so your previous grades, your research proposal, your references, and your statement of academic purpose. Now, if you have relevant experience, if you have a publication that's relevant, great, tell us about it. That can strengthen your application, but you don't need to have a publication. So if you don't have a publication, that's absolutely fine.
And for the last question, people want to know more about the Colfuturo Alliance.
Yeah, would you like to say a bit more, Camila, about Colfuturo? Any advice on that?
Yes, sure. So if you want to get a 100% discount, you'll have to be a part of the Semillero of Talentos that we have in Colfuturo. And if you participate and you get to be selected, you get a 20% discount on your matricula. Yes.
Yeah. And I suppose they can find a lot of information about that on your website as well.
Yes, you can find the information on our webpage and also on LSE.
Yeah, but just to say that the partnership has been going for many years, and we've had a very large number of scholars coming to LSE on Colfuturo scholarship, so it's an excellent source of funding, an excellent opportunity for Colombian students.
Thank you. There's a lot of people asking very specific questions about like their own personal cases. Is there a way they can contact you or any advisor?
I would say the easiest way to get your questions answered, the quickest way, is to contact us through live chat. Now it's a bit too late for today, but it's every day. We have a big block of hours. So if you follow the link on the QR code there, you can contact us tomorrow. We can answer your questions at any point. I mean, for very specific questions as well, you can send us an email. You can find my email on the website as well. If you just search for my name, so Loris Lysiotis, LSE, you can find my email address and I can answer your questions as well. Just one thing to show here. So on our website, if you open any degree program, I'm just going to give you an example here. Say Psychology of Economic Life. All of our programs look like this on the website. And if you scroll down, you get the program structure and courses, so you can see the modules within your program. And if you click on any of the modules, it takes you to a page that looks like this. And this gives you information about individual modules, so the course content, and also a list of readings that you can do. So there's a lot of information for you to understand exactly what you're applying for. And this is something you can use in your statement of academic purpose. So you're not just applying for psychology because you love psychology. Actually, it's because you identified specific courses and you know how you expect to benefit from those courses, how they link to your previous studies and also to your aspirations and motivation as well. It's a very important thing to do.
Loris, thank you so much for the presentation and for answering all of the questions. And thank you for everyone that is online right now and participated.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Camila. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.